Okay, I think that we are ready. Hi, my name is Konstantinos Petridis. I'm coming from the Hellenic Mediterranean University in Crete, in Greece. Thank you that you are with us. Thank you very much for your registration. It's a great honor for us and a great responsibility. We are teachers, academics, so we are doing this webinar based on the need that we are facing right now to transit very fast from face-to-face teaching to online teaching. So personally, I'm sharing all the difficulties and all the challenges that we should overcome. I took this initiative with colleagues of mine from all over the Europe, together with my friend and colleague Ricardo Tavio from Spain. And I hope that you will enjoy. The webinar will be in three parts. The first part today is on the first part is today. The second one will follow on the 4th of May, and we will finish on the 7th of May. So, Ricardo, the floor is yours before we will move to some questions to the audience.
Yes, thank you, Costas. As he told before, my name is Ricardo Tavio, and I'm representing EBM. We are very glad that you are following us via Facebook or via YouTube. Until this moment, we have registered more than 1,600 people. Therefore, we think that this is going to be a very interesting series of webinars. As you know, we have to cover four topic areas. First of them will be around technology. Also, we will talk about pedagogy, how to motivate teachers and students. Then we will go with emotional support, the psychological support that the students need to keep working in their natural ecosystems. And finally, we will talk about blended teaching as well, and how to adapt blended teaching after the pandemic. So I think we are ready now to go. Thank you everyone for following this first webinar, and we hope that you can enjoy it.
Okay, and before we start, thank you very much, Ricardo. And before we start with our first guest speaker, who comes from Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel, Professor Ron Bloder, we are going to share with you a small questionnaire that will be live. So please go to the mentimeter.com and place the number that you will see on your screens right now. It's going to be a very we are requesting a very fast answers. So please do it right now. We would like to find out which people do we have. So please start. Are you a teacher or a trainer? I will wait a little bit for some people to get to the Mentimeter, to menti.com. So it's www.menti.com, and you're using this kind of code in order to access, this questionnaire. So use your mobile phones for this. It's nice that we have so many colleagues among us. Ricardo, how many do we have in order to know?
In YouTube, we are now 360 people live.
Okay, so we have another. So I should wait a little bit for the majority of the people to vote.
Yeah, we have around 175.
73. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, now we have more than 200 votes.
So I think that I will stop when we reach, 200. Let's give some time, to the people.
Okay. In order to vote, you just have to enter www.menti.com and use the code that you are seeing on the screen. It's 906764.
So I think I will.
I think we can start. We have a very clear
We have,
idea.
all right. So I'm moving to the other question. Where are your university comes from? So you can write down, on the screen, the country that you are coming from. Okay, we have participants from Belgium, Greece, Portugal, University of Sheffield, UK, Portugal, Austria, University of Sheffield, Germany. On our website, also, you can see the distribution of the participants that we have per country. So you can see, a mapping that we have regarding the participants. It's nice that we have an interest about this webinar from all over the world. We are happy, but also we're feeling a little bit stressed because the responsibility is a little bit big for us also, in order to satisfy all your questions. All our speakers, they have been informed about your questions. We have analyzed your questions per category: technology, pedagogy, support, motivation, online examinations, online laboratories. And I'm pretty sure that all our partners and all our guest speakers, they will address all your questions.
Yeah. Now we are reaching 400 people live. We have just reached 400 in YouTube, and we have near 300 replies for the from which university people is coming from.
Okay, we have people also from Western Africa, Tanzania, Uganda. It's nice.
We have people also from New Zealand and Australia. We have people from several countries from Latin America as well. And we are very happy about that, because although the project started in Europe, the idea has been traveling all around the world, and that's always very nice to hear.
Okay, let's move to the next question then. Are you male or female? Very nice. I think I should move to the next question. And have you registered through Eventbrite, Google Forms, or both ways in order to know which is the most efficient tool? However, for us, both ways is going to be more important since, with using Google Forms, you can also register your questions that all the presentations will be based on. They will be based on answering these kind of questions that you have set up.
Yeah, Dr. Petridis has made a huge work of categorization of these hundreds of questions.
The whole team. I mean, also my colleagues in the International Relations Office in Hellenic Mediterranean University support us. EVM or the whole network. So it's and also yourselves with your contribution and by asking the questions. I mean, you have contribute the maximum. It's better to answer not through the Facebook, but also by just using the medi.com, because all these results it will be sent to you. We are going to make a whole presentation for all of you with all the answers, all the proposed solutions that our speakers they will offer to the questions that we have made, because I'm one of you. I have no expertise in online teaching, so we will send you a whole report in order to be used for you and something to be useful. So let me go to the next one. What do you expect from this webinar? You can answer, here you can provide more than one answers. So it's up to you. At the end, also by visiting our website, also you can download the evaluation of the webinar. How do you feel after the webinar? And we will very much appreciate constructive feedback to receive from you. So we are looking forward to mention to us the weaknesses, what you would like us to improve for the next webinar on the 4th of May. And we will appreciate this very, very much.
So apparently there's a huge interest in learning about new tools and new methodologies. So the technological side and the pedagogical side.
So let's move to the other one. When teaching online, how do you feel? I have to say, from my personal experience, that I'm feeling more tired doing online teaching than face-to-face. Okay, let's move to the other one. Is this the first webinar on online teaching you attend? Okay, let's move to the other one. What is your experience on online teaching? Me personally, I had no experience, and because of the coronavirus, I forced to move into this delivery teaching method, and I really enjoy. But there are a lot of things that I don't know.
So apparently there's a lot of people starting and doing their best with online teaching.
Okay, very good. Very good. So let's move to the other one. Name some tools, platforms you have worked with along, we mean along the online teaching. People probably they are using Moodle or the local e-class platform that your university employs, WebEx. I'm using Zoom a lot. Fantastic.
Blackboard as well.
Yeah. I mean,
Big Blue Button. Microsoft Teams as well.
amazing. How many different tools do they exist?
And there
Okay. Let's move now to the other one. How do you find online teaching? I have to say, from my personal experience until now, I will use a lot of the tools and techniques that I have learned also along my face-to-face teaching, especially regarding voting and recording my courses and online frequent assessment of my students. I think that they are very useful tools in order to follow me also along my face-to-face teaching.
Okay, so apparently most of the people find interesting and useful online teaching.
Some of them, they found it interactive. So probably they will have some a lot of questions or a lot of suggestions during the presentations that they will follow.
We hope so.
Okay, let's move now. What do you struggle the most with online teaching? This is the last question. Interaction with students is like a very big challenge. But we have, and today with Dr. Elif Benku from Abdullah Gül University in Turkey, we have a presentation regarding interaction, but also more presentations they will follow on the 4th and on the 7th of May. I think that we have also a lot of experts from online universities that they participate within this webinar, also to provide recipes how to do exams, not only within a very small auditorium, but also with a very large audience regarding a very large classes that probably the majority of us were dealing with. Laboratory exercises. Today we have 2 presentations from people from Adverb, from Belgium, and also a colleague of us from California, United States. They provide how do we run online and virtual laboratories with real equipment, not just laboratories that they are based on software. So I think at this point I should stop this kind of survey. I would like to thank you. I would like to thank all of you for this, and I think now I should provide the floor to a very good, a very experienced and very famous in her field scientist from Israel, from Weizmann. I will give her the floor to her in order to present herself. It's Professor Ron Blonder from Weizmann Institute of Science. So the floor is yours, Ron. And we are looking forward for your presentation. It's the first presentation that we will have for today. The title has emotional tips for students and teachers along online teaching. So we are looking forward.
Thank you, Kostas and Ricardo. Research is focused on teacher professional development, self-efficacy beliefs, nano and chemistry education, and the integration of technology in science education. Today, I would like to share with you several of our research insights regarding emotional support, based on my understanding of the literature and based on the research done in my research group. Today, I will talk about emotional support. From my research, I know that when we want to have quality online teaching, we cannot separate technology, pedagogy, and emotional support. They are all together like one amalgam. Therefore, in my talk today, I will talk about what is good teaching, what we need to have an online environment in order to ensure learning. What's the role of emotions? And what emotions are involved? And of course, I will give some tips of how we as lecturers can provide emotional support to our students. Let's start. Recently, because of the coronavirus pandemic, all higher education institutions have changed to remote online learning. in order to continue teaching. So we need to teach the same content using technology tools and applications. Should we teach the same? Should we modify the pedagogy? Will this result in different learning? And how does the situation affect students' well-being? From my research, I know that when we want quality online teaching, we cannot separate technology, pedagogy, and the other variables that influence learning. They are all together, as I said. So the other talks in the webinar will provide the dimension of technology and deeply go into pedagogy, but I know that it should be all in one amalgam, as I said. So I need to mention them a little bit as well. So in order to keep quality teaching and learning, I'll show here 7 principles for good practice in higher education. Encourages contact between students and faculty, develops reciprocity and cooperation among students, encourages active learning, gives prompt feedback, emphasizes time on task, communicates high expectations with the students, and respects diverse talents and different ways of learning. All these 7 principles sounds reasonable, okay? But I guess you all think now, well, how can we achieve all this in an online learning? So I want to present now the most acceptable online learning model that provided by Garrison, and he provided an answer to the question what we must have in an online learning community in order to achieve and promote learning. And this is what we want, right? So let's see. In this framework that is called a community of inquiry, there is a distinction between cognitive presence, social presence, and teaching presence. The cognitive presence describes the extent to which learners are able to construct knowledge and confirm meaning through sustained reflection and discourse. And the cognitive presence is something that we usually try to achieve in our courses. Never mind if they are online or in the real world. But there is another dimension that is called social presence, and social presence is defined as the ability of the learners to project their personal characteristics into the community, thereby presenting themselves to the other participants as real people. A large body of research has found that for learners to critically engage in a discourse in blended or online setting, they need to create and establish a social learning space. The third component is a teaching presence. And this is a central organizing element in learning, the teaching presence. It's responsible for the design, the facilitation, and most important, the direction of the cognitive and the social processes for the realization of personally meaningful and educationally worthwhile learning outcomes. This is what we do as instructors. So if we think about that, usually here the role of this instructor is stopped. Because historically, in Western thinking, emotions and human feelings were considered outside of the sphere of the rational thought. More recently, we rethink of emotions as being linked to cognition and learning. Actually, emotions play a critical role in the teaching and learning processes because feelings and emotions of learners affect motivation, self-regulation, and academic achievements. So it's important to think about that and to find ways in which we can support students' emotions. I would use the adapted conceptual framework of community of inquiry suggested by Cleveland, Innes, and Campbell in order to look at the learning in the online environment. And according to this framework, we distinguish between 4 presences: the cognitive presence, the social presence, the teaching presence, all presented before, and the emotional presence. So what is the emotional presence? The emotional presence is the outward expression of emotions, affect, and feeling by individuals and among individuals in the community of inquiry in an online environment, as they are related to and interact with the learning technology, the course content, the other learners, and of course with the instructor. And if we go back to the 7 principles of good practice in higher education, it's important to find how we can provide emotional support to realize all these principles in an online learning community in our course. So emotions, therefore, cannot be considered separately for the learning environment because there is an impact and relationship of emotions and cognition. As described by Debbie Morrison, there are positive emotions. For example, joy, enthusiasm, excitement. These all arise for the flexibility of the online learning. Okay, and this flexibility and feelings are mostly expressed earlier in the beginning of the online learning. They can learn where they want, when they want, how they want, okay? There are also emotions of pride and contentment for fulfilling the course requirements. There are also emotions of surprise and excitement for the emotional nature of online communication. Suddenly we can write in the chat and discuss. But there are also negative emotions, of course, like fear and anxiety for the unknown mode of online learning and its demands, technology, time management, structure. And remember, in our case, students didn't choose to learn in the online mode. We were forced to use it due to the special circumstances arising from the corona crisis. Other negative emotions can be alienation and the need for connectedness, which emerged during the first weeks of the course, and when students struggle and find satisfied ways to communicating with their classmates and the instructor. There are stress and guilt for being unable to balance the multiple roles and responsibility, which is one of the most serious obstacles that students face now. They struggle to combine their professional life, family, social life, which made it hard to cope with the demands of the course they take. And now, in the coronavirus pandemic time, there are additional negative emotions, loneliness and isolation. Some of our students are alone at home and they don't meet any friend, anyone, or any member of their family. Many of our international students are dealing all alone with the situation, with limited support from their family or without being able to support their own families. And this resulting in additional burden and vulnerability. Given this reality, emotions must be considered a central factor or influential part of learning online and elsewhere. So I want to stop for 30 seconds. Go to the platform that you're watching me now, Facebook, YouTube, and go to the comment or to the chat possibility of the platform, and write your opinion or your experience. What helps you deal with the current situation? The situation is not easy. What gives you power? What helps you deal with the current situation? So I will wait 30 minutes. Write your opinion or your experience. What helps you? Okay, don't be ashamed. You still have 10 minutes to write and to share with us how do you deal with the current situation? What gives you power? Okay. Thank you. We will go back to that later. So, given this reality, emotion must be considered a central factor or a very influential factor or part of learning, online or elsewhere. So, how to build emotional presence in an online course? In face-to-face classes, emotional presence happens seamlessly. Teachers detect emotional cues of the student due to their physical proximity. If we apply this principle to online learning environment without physical closeness, in an online course, for instance, there is a need to be deliberate effort to include cues that support emotional presence. Cues visible in face-to-face settings include smiling, eye contact, knowing students by name, or demonstrating interest. But in online classes, it's easier to say than to do. So technology and physical distance create barriers that make it difficult for instructors to read and to reach their students. But there are several suggestions which I collected from different resources. Conducting synchronous discussions via chats or video conferences provide the instructors opportunity to assess and to read learners' emotions that may impact their learning, such as uncertainty, confusion, as we saw before, and even positive emotions, interest, enthusiasm. We need this feedback, and we need to know where our students are. Another idea that I found are word clouds, asking the students to write or express their feelings. Word clouds are figures in which the size of the words reflect the number of students who share the same opinion. So asking the students to write and express their feelings in a word cloud can give us an immediate understanding of the dominant feelings. For us, this is identifying tool, but for the students, they provide emotional support because they feel that their emotions are legitimate by sharing, and also they see that they are not alone with their emotions. Others feel like them. Another tool is examining online behavior. For example, if you use a Moodle LMS, learning management system, you can check whether the student logged into the system and how long did they stay there. And if you identify students who are not coping, who are not part of the course assignments, and they don't watch the videos, you can contact them and provide them support and suggest support and help. So if we'll go back to the chat in which you wrote the comments now, we are able to see what helps the other people to cope with the situation. So we might get some good ideas that could help us too, right? It's very important to respect and accept all the emotions that you see in this communication. They are all legitimate. All these tools that I showed until now are monitoring tools. But how can we provide emotional support for the students? How can we do it actively? The TS instructor can help your student to deal with the difficult emotions, loneliness, the small children at home, by understanding the situation and understanding them, and provide the students tools to physically deal with the learning in the current situation. Simple things like record your lesson so students can learn when they have time and when their small children, for example, are asleep. Offer online consulting hours and be ready to support difficulties that are not necessarily concern the content of the course, but other dimensions and other difficulties. Stay online after the lesson. Don't log out immediately when the lesson ends. You can use these minutes to talk with a student who stayed there. They don't stay there by mistake. They need your presence. It's like a real class. They need someone to rely on. Provide students who need it procedural adjustments, extension of submission of assignment, postponement of exams, for example. Tell them that they may contact you directly and request for the desired adjustment. It's really important now. You can be the stable anchor for your student. But I want to show another dimension that we can do as instructors. Physical exercise sometimes help you to feel better, and we can do it in our course. It is known that changing your posture and expression can help you shift out negative emotions. Chemical changes occur all the time in our brain. When we are afraid or stressed or feeling excitement and successful, these emotions are also connected to specific physical movement. So we can do that in order to cheat our brain. We will move the body as if we feel good and happy and successful, and the brain will release the neurotransmitters, the chemicals that are connected to the positive feelings. For example, sitting with our feet on the desk or sitting straight with a straight spine has been shown in studies that are connected to feeling confidence. So let's try to sit straight. And you cheek up. Immediately you feel confidence. Or for example, if we smile for several seconds, the brain gets the idea that we are happy, and the certain chemicals are released in our brain, and suddenly we feel a little bit more happy. I used to do this exercise when I had times of deep sadness. For example, when I lost my mother. Certain hands movement can make you feel successful and self-efficacy, and I will demonstrate soon. So in order to incorporate these movements, when you teach, you should sit in front of the web camera in a way that the student will be able to see not only your face or your forehead, but also your hands and your body to demonstrate this movement. And you can also ask the student to do the movements with you. It might be strange, but to finish our meeting with a request that we all smile for 20 seconds will be the best thing we can do for our students, and to leave them with a happy feeling. So I want to show you one of the hands movements that can make you feel successful. When we success in a competition, for example, or a bet, when we have a betting and we win. And when we win, we usually do like this with the hands, you see? Yeah. And we say, yeah. So let's try everyone to do this movement and let's see how we feel after that. Yeah. I really wish you all a very, very interesting webinar. And I really wish you to be able to support your student in the online learning. And in my last slide, I'm sending you a red rose from my garden that I photographed this morning, together with a little Israeli sunshine. And I will be happy to answer your questions. Costas, you are mute.
I'm sorry about this. Thank you very much for the talk. So the floor now is for the audience to ask questions, and I will transfer your questions to Ron Blonder. So we have like around 10 minutes from now for questioning. So please feel free to ask any questions to Ron regarding her expertise, regarding this presentation. Feel free to write down your question, and I will transfer your question immediately to the speaker. So everyone, thanks you. I think that they enjoy very much, as I can see the flow of the messages. Okay, we have a question, and I will show to Ron right now from our colleague Razvan Serbu. What games are you using in online meetings? Ron, the question is for you.
I don't use games in online meetings. It was easy to answer.
But probably he mentioned online teaching.
I have a game. There is a game in Israel to forward an envelope. In this game, in the real life, we have a big package, and in each package, each level of the package, you open a cover and you have a note, that assignment to do something. So with the idea of my colleague Rachel Mamluk Naaman from Weizmann, we developed this kind of game for the online learning environment. For example, I have this envelope and I have an assignment to say, for example, something about how do I feel. And after I do this assignment, I transfer the envelope to Costas. And Costas, take it from me with your hands. Okay, he takes the envelope and opens it as if. And also he has an assignment to say something about something else. So in this way, all the people who are present in the synchronic meeting can be part of the game and share their emotions or their ideas. You can also do it about content, not only about feelings. I hope that I answered your question.
Thank you very much. And another question comes from a colleague from Greece, Maria Stefanidou. How can we make students feel that they are participating?
I think for this question, make them participate. For example, if I give an exercise in my lesson, I will give 2 minutes for them to sit and solve the problem. And then, for example, they can share their answer in a private chat. So not all the students will see each answer, only me will see the answer. Another possibility, I can ask yes, no questions, and they can raise hand if they agree. Or I can divide them into small rooms, and together in small groups, they will deal with the problem that they have to solve. I think there are a lot of ways to make them active and participate in the learning. Also, what Costas did in the beginning, the Mentimeter, I can ask also questions about the content in the Mentimeter, and they have to think and to implement what they learn in order to answer the questions. And this is very important.
Thank you very much. Another question comes from Cyprus. How do you help students develop skills in addition to knowledge through online teaching?
Okay, I think the online environment is, I don't know what skills do you mean, but if you mean a self-regulated skill to control your own learning, this is exactly the right place to develop these skills, because when you sit in the big audience in the class, you just sit and get. But when you learn at home, you must put a lot of effort in order to learn. And this is the right time to teach our students how to control their own learning and to take responsibility for their own learning.
Mm-hmm. Another question comes from Mr. Dafilu Sevi. How can you make the students to interact more frequently and therefore show their emotions, whether happy or miserable, during the lecture? Okay. I'm using body language myself. I just observe them.
Yes, yes. In the class, we use body language, but in the remote teaching, it's really difficult. For example, for me, it makes me very tired to sit and to teach. After 1.5 hours, I'm killed. For example, do you remember that I asked you to write in the Facebook or your ideas how to overcome this crisis? In this way, when I looked at what you wrote, and I saw many interesting ideas: yoga, read books, think about good things. And some of the people said there are no good things. I don't have any technique to go out of this situation. And for these students, I think it's really important. First of all, we gave them the opportunity to share their difficulties. Then, if they will scroll down the message, they will see they are not alone. Additional people think like them. And also, if you have a class that you know the student, you can also approach these students and talk with them. Pick the phone and call them and talk with them. See if you can help them. I think there are a lot of ways to let them say their feelings. For example, another way is the word cloud that I showed. Exactly like Costa did with the question, from which country are you? You can write how do you feel now? And immediately you get the cloud of all the feelings, and you can monitor what do they feel.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Another question comes from a colleague of mine from our Department of Electronic Engineering of Hellenic Mediterranean University. Do you encourage your students to enable their camera during teaching for face-to-face contact? Are they usually on mic or can mute mode?
I really encourage them to have their video on, because in this way they are more present in the meeting, in the class. I know it's not easy, because for some of them this is really a part of their privacy, and they don't want me to be in their room. Maybe they don't have good conditions and they don't want people to see that. So I understand people who doesn't want to open their web camera, but I really encourage my students to do it. Usually I ask them to mute themselves and open the mic only when they want to talk. Otherwise, there is a horrible echo, and it's really horrible to teach like that. But it's an issue, because the technology sometimes asks us to do something that we don't think it's good. But I ask them to close the microphone and to open it only when they want to talk.
Thank you. And the last question, can be peer learning used as a supportive tool while teaching online? I think, I don't know, from Natalia.
Okay, Natalia. I think peer learning is very good for this time, because some of our students are really alone. Maybe they have a one-room apartment and they are alone there. And for example, in Israel, we had the regulation that for 1 month we're not allowed to go out of our homes. So if we have a family, it is okay. But if you are alone and maybe you are afraid and you don't know what to do, it's horrible to live like that. And when you do peer learning, you really, really support them. So I really encourage that.
Thank you. And since we have 1 more minute, a last question from a colleague of mine from Hellenic Mediterranean University. How do we create online small groups? Send my greetings to my friend.
Small groups, for example, in the Zoom, you can divide the learners into small groups, small rooms. You just need to go to the setting in the Zoom and choose this option, and you are able to divide them into working groups. It is really recommended.
So thank you very much for your talk. It's time now to move to the next speaker. The next speaker again comes from תודה רבה, Ron. Let's move to another colleague of us from Israel, from Meital, which is like an inter-university learning center. So he has a great experience on online education. He said the title of his talk will be Online Teaching Technology, How to Use It Effectively. So the floor is to Eli, and the moderator will be now Ricardo from EVM.
Thank you, Kostas. Let's see Mr. Eli Shmueli now.
Hi, thank you very much, Kostas. Thank you, Ricardo. Let me see if you can see. You can see the presentation. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Ricardo and Kostas, for this for organizing this event. It's a very unique event, and especially in this period of time. So it became a very. It started as a small ideas, and it became a very large operation with thousands of people around the world that watching us. So thank you. So I'm Eli Shmueli from Meital. And Meital, I'll say a few words about it because it's a unique Israeli consortium that promote inter-university center for e-learning. We usually for the last 20 years, we boost, promote, advance e-learning education technology in higher education in Israel. To promote the collaboration and international and national collaboration, we work with most of the universities in all the universities in Israel and 20 academic colleges in Israel, and some international organization that we are working with, European project such as the iPEN and the one that we're familiar with, the one that Kostas is organized. So we, as a national organization, we in the Meital activity during the COVID-19 in the last few weeks, we had to deal with a lots of activity around the license agreement to find a solution for the technology, and that we have to support the institute in Israel. I know the same things happen all over the world, usually in Europe and United States. So we're all in the same situation that try to find at first the right technology. And we had a lots of institutes that needs our help. The second thing that we did during the COVID-19 was to actually try to support the community that we are dealing with. And for that case, we have a website with an up-to-date information for the teacher and the people that are promoting the online learning, and some kinds of a professional group during the process to support this community to have different kinds of question and answers for them, and to try to organize it in a national level or higher education Israeli level, and to develop the group of people that we will work together and to find solution for different aspects, actually to give them some ideas during the process, because it was complicated process for all of us. And at the beginning that most of us didn't know how to handle this process, to move from a face-to-face teaching in the local institute, classrooms, into the online solution, and usually synchronized. And it was something that we like to manage and try to support the community. We're at this process. During this process, we are still facing three main challenges. The first one is to find a quick and dirty, what we call, for the synchronous solution. As I said, we moved from the face-to-face very quickly, sometimes with no solution, to the online environment, online platform. We need for that some solutions. At the second stage, that means the second challenge that I will talk about, is the extended teaching methods, to find not just the synchronic mode and the synchronic solution, and to find a kind of different method that will support the teaching in a way that support the emotional that we heard before this session, and different pedagogical aspect, and to make the students more involved and communicate and everything. So this is the second challenge that we are facing. And the third one is the test and evaluation. We are very soon will have to examine those students and find solution for that. And this is something that we have to find out how to handle in a large scale of people. That means higher education institutes all over the world actually have to deal with this challenge. So we try to focus on a number of challenges, but this, I think, the main challenge that we all focus on. The first one was, we all know that we have to stay home. And when we have to stay home, we have to find a technology that will support that way. And we replaced the traditional face-to-face teaching and moved to the online session. And we needed very quickly to find different solution to that. At that stage, we usually duplicate the way that we teach in class into in the same course structure into the online. People or teacher taking their the way of teaching in class and try to do similar, the same, sometimes only talking, sometimes use some content in the synchronic mode. So we took the same synchronic mode to the online. For that, we had a large number of tools that we can use. The Zoom became more popular than all over the world, and people are using that in a very large number here in Israel, and I believe all over. But there is others, and there is a very common and good solution for that. I took the one that we used in the last few weeks, and I think it's something that we can recommend about it. And of course, I believe you already have some kinds of a solution, but we use a WebEx, we use a Google Hangout Meet, and we use a Microsoft Team. Big Blue Button, it's a very good, another good one that we use in a different institutes. Neuro, Cultura, some local solution that I believe all of you have in different countries in Europe, and Jitsi and everything. And I think there is a large list of tools and options that you can integrate into the synchronic solution that you need in campus. Usually it's a general like institute solution and not just teacher solution. So this is one of the things that we use at the first challenge. We gather some tips that maybe you can use as if you're in the first stage of the online session. Plan lesson very carefully. This is something that it's right for the online and for the face-to-face meeting, and you always use. It's always important to have that lesson very carefully. Plan that. Choose synchronized instructor if and only if there is something in the class that requires everyone to be together. And this is a very it's a very important issue, but I'm not sure that this is something that we can do at this moment in if and only if, because I believe we need to find out how to implement this tip, because it's very important for the different kinds of method and the different kinds of way of teaching, and this is something that we have to consider as teachers, and to see if we can manage these tips and find a way that we will have some balance between the synchronized and asynchronized and maybe other methods that can be involved. And this is something that we here in Israel are start to think about how to manage that, but I believe all of you are all over the world are thinking the same way. Teaching and learning happening through interaction. So create different opportunities to build students' engagement in the virtual medium. So this is a very important tips and tip, and this is something that if you will be able to integrate them, the students in different part of the session, and so this is something that it's very useful. I had a list of tools that we prepared or we gathered from different aspects. I'll just wait a minute to see that you can see this. So we have a list of tools with a different kinds of needs and disciplines sometimes, and methods like. Okay, I can see that it's not online, but let's. Okay, good. You can see that the list of tools. Good. I will keep it on the presentation, and you will be able to go through that and find the right technology and right solution for your needs. And this is something that you can use during your sessions. There is a large number of tools. We didn't need to have a specific one. Everybody can use whatever they need, and this is very flexible. Another tip that we gather is to have a very clear what the lesson will be and what they will do through the session and what they will be asked to do. This is something that it's very important in face-to-face meeting, and every 10 to 15 minutes try to break in some kinds of interaction tools or interaction activity, and there is lots of option. We mentioned the rooms that you can divide it in the online session, the Zoom session, to different rooms. This is one option. Quiz, to integrate some quiz and other options in interaction tools for collaboration and communication between students and between. There is a large list of tools that you can use, and this is we have that on the website that I integrate, and I will have it on the presentation. So now I'm trying to move. I will move to the second challenge, and in that case, this is something that we have to consider. A virtual lesson should not replace what you would have done in the physical classroom. That was the easy things to do at the beginning, but now after a few weeks of online learning and online teaching, we have to consider how to manage the lesson and the sessions in a better way, and to integrate between the synchronized and other methods that I will talk in a few minutes. And this is the second challenge that we are talking about. After a few weeks of online learning, we recognize that we need the next steps. And for that, we need tools that support different teaching methods, like synchronic, asynchronous learning, a blended learning, collaboration learning, collaborative learning, and we need to find tools that will help us to get those methods in the online session. And this is lead us to the asynchronous mode. Usually, what we have in a traditional face-to-face is information transfer. We deliver the information from in the classroom, and at home usually we practice and we apply. in the online training, we're kind of trying to be, it's not exactly a flipped classroom, because it's another model that maybe it can be done, and some of you are using that, but it can be a combination between the online learning and kind of a flipped classroom, that the information and to transfer the information is something that happens at home at the asynchronic mode in a self-learning, and then the online session, it can be a synchronized lesson that apply questions and answers and communication between students. So this is another way. I'm not sure that you all be, or I think every teacher, any teacher can take any level of these kinds of synchronic and asynchronic mode and decide how we like to integrate those two options in his activity. And again, we divided the synchronic and asynchronic for a different kind of tool that support that. And of course, it's only an example for that. And you can see that we have in the synchronized web meeting, group work. This is something that can break up rooms. We mentioned that in Zoom, but I think any other options can be available for that. There is other tools that support that, and this is one of them. Live content collaboration, Google Drive, and Eddie, and again, more tools, and we will send you the list for that. Real-time polls, and whiteboards and node boards. This is for the synchronic mode and synchronic collaboration and communication between the students. For the asynchronous mode, we have the forum, quiz, assignment, survey, interactive video like H5P and any others options, video annotation. We have national and international options like a company like Anoto. Pair assessment, rubric based. This is something that Moodle support these kinds of activities. And let me see if this will work. Another list of tools that available, and again, this will be on the presentation, and you can see for different kinds of needs, different kinds of tools. And then we can move for the third challenge. I think we're all facing the same, and the management and the universities management are very concerned about that. We hear that here in Israel, but I know in different forums around the world, we are trying to find a way to test, evaluate, and assessment the students. This is very soon, in a few weeks. Some of the institute already started, but in a few weeks we'll need the way to assessment. And this is something that we try to discuss here between our partners. And we know that there is a lot of solution for that, but there is still a lot of complication for that, and there is, and so we try to divide it for two main activities. Some things that will be what we call assessment and evaluation, and the others are and this is the open side of the equation, and the other one is closed, based on testing, proctoring, and all the systems that deal with this kinds of testing online. Students in a different houses online, that means they can sit at home and actually have a test, and this is the closed area is deal with the quiz, closed questions, questionnaire, survey, interactive video, and auto evaluation, that mean AI based, and this kinds of thing. And this is and another one is the live proctoring, that actually monitoring the way that the students do these exams. And there is some tools. This is the complicated situation, or this is the complicated way of testing, because the number and the scale and the way that we can monitor that, it's very complicated to have it in a large scale. So we need some other, anyway, we need some others option to assess and evaluate the students. And this is something that open for us a very large way of preparing the evaluation process, and this is another opportunity to evaluate the student in a maybe not get a better, let's say, not a better way, but well, sometimes it's a better way. And this is assignment, forum, peer review, plus rubric, blogs, wiki, mind map, and plagiarism support that we can see how they where they get the information and the content and how they use that in their work. And this is an assignment that goes, it's a process that goes from the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester, and we can gather some evaluation of the students and learn from that, and he can learn from that during the process. And this is something that lots of institutes here all over the world are trying to focus and find a way to evaluate the students. In that case, I want to show, just to mention the online exam, the proctoring solution. That means that we have to ordering questions, how to manage the question. That means how the teacher can build the questionnaires, and they need a full system for that will support it. And managing a question repository. We need a repository for that. That it can be a repository, institute repository, it can be a national repository, but it's something that teachers need to maintain and build. And then the proctoring home online exam, that means it can be AI based or a live solution. And this is a very expensive and complicated solution. And the number of companies that deal with that are trying to find, they are very busy these days, and it's not easy to find a company that can support that. So there is still options, but there is, we had, as I said, to find some solution based on the assessment, assignment, and to find a better way to assess the students and evaluate. And here the list of the tools that we familiar and work with. Here, there is a lot of other tools, some locals and some national, international. But in the left side of the screen, you can see all the Proctor solution. That means the closed option that we mentioned. ProctorU, Examity, Proctor Track, Proctor Exam, and there is another Israeli Think Academy. That means Tegrit, and that means not Integrity. Sorry, the name of it's Tomax. And from the open side, there is a Prujal Originality, another local solution that have different languages from that support different languages all over the world. So this is another solution for the originality. Turnitin, of course, and Moodle. This is the example for the LMS, because Moodle. I know that we all know that there is lots of others LMS that support these kinds of options. This is just an example. Moodle supports a lot of evaluation process and some testing and assessment, different modules, different integration with other tools, external tools, and this really can help to have the evaluation process during the semester so that you can see that you can use. Another project that I like to mention, this is the Horizon 2020 project, Up to University. And they offer, we're involved in that project. This is one, and they offered in these days some options for different kinds of method, different kinds of option that European all over the world can use. And there is some tools, or open tools, that the EU is actually offering by this project to the Higher Education Institute and schools that you can use. So Up to You, it's actually a project that deals with bridge the gap between university, high school to university, but they have some good tools and some good methods that teacher and teacher can use all over the world and use the tools actually. We saw some questions about after the 3 challenges. We saw some questions that we are mentioned about labs. So again, we have a nice link here that deals with labs, and we can share that with you, and different labs for different needs. So maybe this is something that you can use. Again, it will be on the presentation. And another question that we saw during the previous large number of questions was about the platform, the Moodle platform and other platform. I will say a word about it. I'm not that kind of expert, but we are in Israel at the beginning of the crisis, we moved from the centralized, I'm talking about the asynchronic mode, that mean Moodles and the LMS systems in different institute. We moved from the centralized solution that was a few months ago or a few weeks ago to the decentralized solution that can support a large number of students that go every day, all day to the LMS and using content from that. And this is solved a lots of problem here in Israel, and I believe in different institutes in Israel. So I believe in large scale, this is something that you can, if you need, you can do. I'm not going to go into that, but this is based on cluster and decentralized, but this is a good solution and option, and that's help the institute to control the balancing or the activity around the LMS. This is the list of the digital tools, and I think this is the end of the presentation. So thank you all, and I can see you. So now it's time maybe for the question. If there is any questions about our solution.
So thank you very much, Eli, for the presentation. Now let's go to the questions. We have around 10 minutes for question time. So I think that we have already some questions, and let me go back to the menu. Okay, we have one question, for example, from another colleague of mine, Cleo Kutra, which is the online tool that will give us a solution for rubric?
This is a good question that my colleagues is not here, but I think a good rubric can be Moodle, can support that very well. And our teacher are using that usually. So they have some feature in the Moodle platform that can support that.
Okay, we have another one. Here. From Patricia Arriaga, how to cope with ethical regulation regarding the recording of courses online?
Yeah, I think it's something that we're all facing now very dramatically these days, and the camera issue that we mentioned before, it's something that came up it's coming, and people are discussing, and there is two way of facing this issue. One is the teachers, and the other one is the students, the privacy and the copyright issue. There is two different aspects for this ethical regulation. I think this is what you mean here. And I think we're using that, and we offering the students, at least in here in Israel, different institute, different aspects, offer them to turn off the camera. But we are trying to encourage them to use that and open the camera, because it's help for the interaction, it's help for the collaboration, it's help for the emotional feeling. So this is something that the teacher are trying to promote. Regarding the recording from the teacher aspect, that means a copyright issue. This is something that as an institute you can decide where to what to do with the recording, and how if it can be online and then kind of be available again for the period of the, let's say, semester, for the period of year, or you cannot use it, or you cannot allow to recording. So this is the in a local discussion, but I think people are now willing more and more to record and to share their content. And to make, from the other side, we have to make sure that they will not harm any teacher, and maybe make sure that they will have their rights.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. Another good one is this one. How is cheating avoided in online exams?
Cheating avoiding, it's something that there is two ways to. It's a big discussion. That's why usually institute like to have the proctoring and to have the best solution to make sure that we have a closed session, recording everything all over, and make sure that there is no cheating. But there is another discussion that goes around and say, okay, let's have let's examine or evaluate the student during the process and see how to build the knowledge, and make sure that this will be, we will give him the tools to be, to create the knowledge during the process. And in the end, you will get different kinds of exams or different kinds of activity that will help us to evaluate that. So there is two-way assessment and evaluation, and the process, and I think it's a pedagogical issue that after we understand that the online exam, it's very complicated, then we will have the blended between them and the collaboration between those two issues.
Thank you. Another question that is repeated many times, I will choose only one of the questions, but there's a lot of interest around this. Do you have any recommendation for tools for testing, evaluation, and assessment that are free? There are several attendees asking for this.
For testing evaluation, I can add to the presentation a list of tools that are available and you can use. The Pruel is one of them. There is other tools that help teacher to assess. Most of them we're looking for free. So it's not. It's very complicated to say one tools because it's a very large audience around here, and from different countries and different options. And so we will. I have two lists that I mentioned here. I have another two, so we'll gather all together and send it to you by.
Okay. Thank you very much, Costas. I think we are on time to go forward with the next lecturer. There are several questions as well related to laboratories, and for that, I would recommend you to attend to the last lecture.
Yes, I mean, we are going to have a lot, as Ricardo has mentioned, we're going to have the two last presentations for today are focused on how to run virtual laboratories. And also, many of the questions that probably they have not answered, we are going to collect them, and we are going to provide answers through a Q&A session that we are going to create through the website. So we have registered all the questions, and then after these webinars, beyond the 7th of May, we're going to collect all the questions, and we will try to provide very fast answers to all of them through our website. So yes, Ricardo, it's time to move to our next speaker, who comes from Greece, from the University of Macedonia. He's going to speak also as a continuation of Eli Sumueli's talk. Thank you very much, Eli, for the nice talk regarding technology. So the floor is yours. It's Ioannis Lefkos, comes from Thessaloniki, from University of Macedonia. He's a good partner of us. He's a teacher that has an experience in online teaching. So Yannis, if you are unmute yourself, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kostas. I hope you can see my presentation. Can you see my presentation? Okay, thank you. So yes, it's very nice. I think that our presentations are supplementary of one another. Maybe I'm going to also to speak about these tools that someone else has mentioned before. I am Ioannis Lefkos. I come from the University of Thessaloniki, of University of Macedonia in Thessaloniki, Greece. And I'm involved in teacher training, ICT in education, and science education. So first of all, I want to thank the organizers of this webinar and all the good people from other universities that are supporting this. And I would like to open my presentation with an optimistic view. Some days before, I was also watching a seminar, and the lecturer said that we are facing the spring of education in times of this pandemic. So yes, I would agree with this view, because for the first time I've been involved in education for almost 3 decades, and for the first time I'm facing this kind of motivation from the international educational community. I mean, lots of people are facing the same problems. Lots of people are sharing experiences. Lots of people are sharing resources. And there is a communication between all levels and all specialties. And all these things are in a volunteer basis. I mean, we are here now, also the lecturers and the audience, with the same motivation. What can we do best for the sake of our students? And it's a very common problem that the lecturers has also said before, Eli and Ron. I mean, about the collaboration. It's a very demanding thing. One of the greatest of the hardest things to be achieved during the online teaching is how to get your audience be engaged with your teaching. Otherwise, it could be boring. And yes, some of the platforms have very useful tools like raising your hand or speaking to the chat. But this is not universal. And for myself, using Google Meet at the university, for example, there's not a raising hand option. So I try to find some other online tools in order to get my students engaged and foster the collaboration between them, either in a whole class or in small groups. And one of the main issues for me also is that some of these tools can also save your student responses for a later phase of evaluation or assessment or anything or something like that. So my presentation is going to be very practical. I'm going to present some of these tools. And let me start by sharing my personal experience with a photo. I think I'm experiencing some problems with my connection.
Hello. Yanis, you need any help to show the presentation? Or? Hello, Yanis. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can. I think that there's some problem with my connection.
Yeah, we are see you freezing on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile,
Any suggestions?
we can hear you, but we can see you well. That's the Costas, you are muting.
So I suspect that if we
Okay.
still have problems, I mean,
So we're
Yanni,
speaking with ourselves now.
no, we are not speaking ourselves. Okay, we lost him. So I suspect in order to give more time and in order to be more coherent, to move to the next speaker until Ioannis will fix his problems. And the next speaker comes from Turkey. I think that we should give some time to her to get prepared. I'm sorry about this, but this is a live event. So this kind of internet problems probably is something that we cannot predict. If let's move. So I suspect that I can see Pablo is ready, and probably we should move to Pablo in the United States. He's a colleague of us from the States. So I suspect that we should move to his presentation. Pablo, if you unmute yourself, it will be much better. Pablo will speak to us about online tools and virtual laboratories, and then we will move to Elif from Turkey. So we will start with Pablo. He comes and joins us from California in the United States. He's going to speak about a very important issue and priority that we have, which is the virtual laboratories. There are so many questions regarding the virtual laboratories, and in the meantime, I hope that we will solve the problem. Yanis will solve the problem with his connection. So the floor is yours, Pablo, and thank you very much that you join us from so far away.
Thank you very much, Costas. Can you see my screen? Yeah, right. So I'm Pablo Orduña from Labstand. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Labstand, which is a spin-off of a university in Spain, the University of Deusto, in Bilbao, in the north of Spain. And what we provide is remote access to real laboratories through the internet. So I'm going to give you a brief overview, especially on the problems that happen with real experimentation in science and technology through the internet. Since the lockdown started, education had to become online, and there are many tools for communication, for management, all these tools that you were mentioning in the beginning of this webinar, that for Moodle, Skype, Zoom, Blackboard. So most of these tools are for management, for assessments, for communication. However, one big problem is the STEM laboratories, the science and technology and engineering laboratories. I'm talking about real laboratories of Arduino, I'm talking about biology, I'm talking about chemistry, I'm talking about FPGAs, about petroleum engineering. I'm talking about all these kind of laboratories that the student needs to practice so as to learn. Typically, this is a problem in online STEM education, always. Like if you go to, for example, to online platforms like Udemy, edX, and so on, you will see that the number of courses and the number of the enrollment drastically decreases when hardware is required. So this is just an example. There's Coursera, and you see like that for business, for computer science, for history, the numbers of courses are typically higher than those that require these kind of physical laboratories. The solutions are typically either low-cost kits, like the student will have to get some kind of kit in some cases, and this is affordable depending on the particular university and the particular things that the student has to do, or computer-based simulations. But typically, they don't fill all the needs of the users. The other solution that has been in the literature for many years is the remote laboratories. A remote laboratory is a system where you can have you can access the laboratory from anywhere, like through the internet, and you're accessing a real equipment which is located somewhere else. It's not a simulation; it's a real equipment that you manage through the internet. So I'm going to show you a very quick example. This is the Arduino Robot. In the Arduino Robot, as I will show now, the student, what they do is they can write code, they can compile this code for Arduino device, and then they can see how it works in a real robot. So this is not a simulation. Right now, the student will be connecting to a real robot, and with a camera, they can see how the robot behaves. They can move the robot, and whenever it's in certain position, they can send a program, and they only have like 2 minutes to use it. And then they can write another code and go back to the robot and so forth. So this is the way that this clear example of a remote laboratory, and this is what we mean by remote laboratory. You basically connect to a real equipment which is located somewhere else. This is used both in synchronous and asynchronous ways. It's not only like typically people think in terms of like, oh, like this is for online tools, but we actually use it even in the classroom in universities and high schools. Like the teacher is in the high school, the teacher is explaining some concept in physics or so on, and the students can be practicing at the same time, and they can practice all together in the theory class even. But however, for example, in the last quarter of last year, which was the last normal quarter before COVID, most of the laboratory sessions were during the regular time of the classroom. But we had also many users that were using it during the evenings, during the nights, and especially during the weekends. So also the lecturers were sending some homework to the students and so on. Now, remote laboratories is something that has been in the literature for like almost 30 years now. However, it has never been so popular because of a set of reasons. First of one, reliability. Like typically, remote laboratories has been something that one university developed on their own for their own students. Maybe they will share it with other people or with other partners, but typically nobody was taking care of making sure that the equipment is always working, and problems happen if the equipment is broken. For example, in that robot, if the robot was broken, then students will not be able to use it. Also, scalability. Typically, most of the systems in remote laboratories in the literature, they only support one particular laboratory. So if you want to use it with hundreds of students or thousands of students, then you have a problem. So for example, if we only have one robot, then it wouldn't be possible to really work in a sustainable way. And then finally, sustainability in terms of economics. Like typically, many of these remote laboratories have been developed in universities and as part of a project, but what happens if the project ends? What happens if the funding doesn't come? And for this reason, all these reasons are reasons for which it's very common that people don't start using remote laboratories very in their regular classes, except for those who are working very much on the field, like researchers and so on. So I'm going to tackle these three things. In terms of reliability, we as LabSNAN, given that we do provide professional access to customers who use the laboratories, we have to take care about this. And what we do is basically we have many different copies in many different locations. So for example, the robot that I showed as an example, you have it here in our offices, but we also have them in the University of Deusto, also in Spain. We have them in Colombia. We have them in South Africa. And basically, and we are going to have it in Costa Rica pretty soon. So we have multiple copies of each of the laboratories, and we balance the load of the users among them. We also have to so we physically, in some cases, we deploy them there. In some cases, we deploy them remotely, and so on. We also have to take to do many advanced features, like with computer vision, we have to send the programs to the robot from time to time to make sure that each robot is working. And whenever something is like slightly broken, we remove it from the pool so students don't have to use it. So the students never find a broken robot or something like that. Now, the second point, and Kostas told me to focus a little bit more on this one, is scalability. Like what happens if we have like many students at the same time. So I'm going to put some examples. Like, as I said, the first thing we do is having multiple copies in multiple locations of the remote laboratories. In the case of the FPAs, for example, which is a particular device for certain engineerings. That one we have like again multiple copies in Brazil, in Spain, of different types. And if I focus, for example, in this particular laboratory, it's very similar to the previous one conceptually. So you write some code and you send it to the particular board, and with a camera here, you can see what happens in the board, or in this case, with the camera here, you can see what happens in the board here. So just to put an example, last week we had in this particular laboratory, we had 240 students. They used the laboratories almost 4,000 times. We have 14 copies available, and given like certain reasons that I will explain now, the highest position in the queue that somebody had to wait. So the first student goes to one of the boards. The second one goes to another board. The third one to another board. The 14th one goes to another board, and the 15th has to wait. Now, the maximum we had was a 16th person who had to wait for 2 people before entering in the laboratory. And given that the laboratory sessions in this particular laboratory are maximum 2 minutes, sometimes most of the times they are slightly shorter, then the maximum time that anybody had to wait was 1 minute and 35 seconds, which is pretty affordable for this laboratory. The reason for this is there are many reasons. First, the design of the laboratory. We make sure that most of the time the students are writing the code instead of using the physical equipment. Because that's actually, in those kind of laboratories, that's what makes more sense. Like in their case, what they are learning is a high-level thing in terms of writing code. They are most of them writing code, and the equipment can be used by other students. And only when they want to test it, then they go to the particular laboratory for for 2 minutes, and that's it. Also, there is like a lot of queuing theory behind it. I'm not going to go into details, but just think of a call center where you have to have so many agents to support like thousands of users, and also time zones. Like in this case, we were talking about universities in Spain, in the United States, in Malaysia, Colombia, and Turkey, also in Jordan and other locations. The second option is to do like much more like different solutions per different problems. So, for example, in the previous cases, we were talking about robots and so on, where you write code and you send it to the particular system. In this case, what we have is like a laboratory that you can build your own circuits and test them in a real environment. The laboratory itself, it looks like kind of a simulation, like you see this picture and it's not a camera or something. But in this case, what we do is like basically the student selects a set of circuits, they use the oscilloscope, the function generator, and so on. And whenever they click on the button perform measurement, there is like some set of relays here. They physically build the circuit, and we obtain the results. This is a system called Visir that is very, very popular. It has it was developed by the Blekinge Institute of Technology in Sweden, and we as Lapsan, we have deployed several copies in Germany, in the United States, in Costa Rica. And basically, as I said, like you build circuits and you take measurements. Now, given that only when I click on the button for a fraction of a second, for 0.1 seconds, I get access to the equipment, we support that there are many hundreds of students using it at the same time. So if I go to the analysis of last week, for example, we had 346 users. We have 1,200 sessions, which are less than the FPAs, but you have to take into account that these sessions are for 2 hours, not for 2 minutes. And the available copies, we have 4 laboratories. Each of them supports 60 concurrent students. And last week, we had literally no single person waiting in the queue. They were all using it whenever they needed it. In this one, the load is increasing now due to COVID, of course, and we are now doing other solutions, which is actually the next step that I'm going to explain. So in this case, in other laboratories, like for example, chemistry, biology, and everything else, like physics and many other fields, what we do is we create something that we call the ultra concurrent laboratories, which is that basically, for example, in this case in Houston, in the US, the student can select like caffeine or sugar or taurine, and instead of running, like putting a worm in caffeine or a worm in taurine in real time whenever the student wants, what we did was calculating all the options that the student can do. So in this case, the options are only 5. We recorded the videos for each of the 5 potential solutions that the user can use. We recorded them multiple times so that the student can see actually what is happening in each of them, and one student and another student will see different things. And then we provide an interactive experience on top of that. In the case of reactivity in Australia, there are many different parameters. There are over 1,300 things that the student can do, because they are like you can gradually select the distance or the particular source of reactivity and so on. And with all of those, with the 1,300, we made several recordings. And for that reason, we have over 6,000 recordings in this particular laboratory that we provide automatically to the user when the user can do. So they actually can do a lot of experimentation. In the same way, in India, they used to have real-time laboratories in the Siddhartha Institute of Technology using different multiple copies of the same laboratory. But in that case, we created an ultra-concurrent environment where the student can select different resistors, different capacitors, and so on. And they will see a real video of what happens in the real laboratory. In the case of chemistry, University of Georgia here in the US, the students, they can select also like sodium chloride with 2 mol with one particular speed, and they will see what happens in the real equipment for half an hour, what happens with the conductivity, and they will see some graphs on how this is working. In the case of petroleum engineering in Clausthal in Germany, the student can select also what angle to put this big device that you see here, a chair. So this is actually like a 6-meter device. They can select in what angle they want to put it, what speed they want to use for the flow rate for the liquid to go inside the tube, inside that pipe. And with this camera, you can see exactly what is happening inside the camera. So in this case, again, like the students could only use it very few hours per year, like actually only for like few sessions with a lecture in front of them and so on. But once we create this pre-recorded version, automatically all the students can use it at any time, 24/7. They can use it the day before the exam and so on. So as I said, like what we provide is either real-time or ultra-concurrent solutions. One makes more sense in FPGAs, Arduinos, in those devices where there's an unlimited number of things that the student can do. The other category is the one for physics, biology, chemistry, and those are the ones that we use the pre-recorded approach. So finally, regarding sustainability, Labsan is, as I said, is a spin-off of the University of Deusto. We have been working on their field of remote laboratories for 16 years in my case, but mostly as researchers. And now we created, like a few years ago, we created this environment called Labsan, which is a startup. What we provide is commercial access to lab consumers, like to universities, schools, and online platforms like edX and Udemy. And typically, there is a payment for using the laboratories, and we provide part of that to the laboratory providers who act as providers, who provide the laboratories in one way or another, like either in ultra-concurrent version or in real-time version. Right now, because of COVID, we made all these laboratories available for free, like already March 12th, as soon as the crisis started and there were schools that are closing and the universities that were closing, we decided to make everything available for free until summer, so as to avoid any kind of hassle in this situation. Because we have like a network of 24 universities in 14 countries in all the continents providing laboratories, plus many more who are actually using those laboratories. So our mission is basically that, like provide affordable, real experimentation to educators in both traditional and online education. So it's actually, we always use it in both sides. So yeah, like the summary, like basically this is what the Labsan provides, like real laboratories which are available online. I say real laboratories here and not remote laboratories because it's not only remote laboratories that are real time, but also the ultra concurrent laboratories for other fields. And that's it. I'm ready for any question or.
Okay, thank you very much, Pablo. I mean, you speak too fast, no?
I know.
You speak faster than me. So the floor is like, I think that we have 5 to 10 minutes for a few questions. There are a few questions about how do we use, if you have any solutions regarding biology labs. If you can mention something, a lot of people, they are asking what are the solutions running labs in mathematics and etc. Can you provide some of these questions? I mean, I can see over there that do you have any solutions regarding this?
Regarding biology, we only have the laboratory that I mentioned about the planarians for moving the worms that are moving and so on. But however, the important thing is that we actually also provide the service of creating laboratories. And so basically, if the university has that equipment, we typically partner with universities who have the expertise and have already their laboratory, and we make that a laboratory available online, both for them and for everyone else in the network.
About this, there is something about lab concerning tests about materials or reinforced concrete or steel or other civil structures and objects.
At this point, we don't have. We're working on them with UNED in Spain for creating laboratories on certain civil engineering things. But as I said, like we are very open to create with more universities, more laboratories, because it's fast. It's quite fast to the development process, and it helps creating more laboratories in the network.
So the people, they can come in contact direct with you and discuss, solutions that probably they would like to have, no? Definitely. So I would share the email. And okay. So sorry. I mean, this was. We have a lot of people from medicine. So, they are asking about, and I check out also by analyzing, the questions that we have received. If you have any solutions regarding medical-oriented laboratories, I mean, if there are any.
Yeah, we have had requests recently on medical field, particularly in like experiments, especially with microscope. Those are very easy to create the remote the ultra concurrent version of the remote laboratory, meaning that you can, like, we already have like one laboratory on Microscope, but we're looking for other partners to create other laboratories where you can actually like see particular cells or particular I don't know the word in English, but particular parts of the skin and so on. But right now, at this moment, we don't have any medical laboratory.
And the last question comes from Nuno Escuedura, who is one of the organizers also through the European University Consortium that we have applied for a European University Athena. So Nuno is very much involved with the deaf students. So do we have any solutions about deaf students regarding remote laboratories, I suspect?
I'm not sure, like, do you mean in terms of accessibility? Like none of the laboratories have any sound or anything like that. So the only problem will be like the mostly for people who cannot see the particular camera and so on.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think that we should stop the questions at this point. If you have more questions, the email of Pablo will be available, his business email. So people that you are, because we have a lot of questions, how they can create a virtual laboratories back home, back into their university. So we are going to provide and we are going to make visible through our website the email of Pablo, so you can directly contact with him. I suspect now, Ricardo, we should move to Yanis. Yanis has restored his internet connection.
Yes.
So I will give the floor to Yanis.
We are having Yanis back, hopefully with a better connection now. Can you hear us, Yanis? Please,
Yanis, you should unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
The floor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Yanis, we can hear you very well. So you can start.
Okay. Is my presentation visible? Okay, thank you. So maybe I should start from the point that I was interrupted by my connection. I was trying to present some of the collaborative tools. So one of the tools that I'm using very much with my students is this tool called Mindmeister. You can see a little bit of this URL. You can use it. You can even use it now if you like. I will show you how it works. So this is now live from the internet. You can use this information, bit.ly what is distance / what is distance. If you can log into this information, to this URL, then we might be able to collaborate. I don't know how many people. I've never done it with more than 50 people, to be honest, but it would be a good opportunity to test how this goes. You can use it later and see what's going on, but now I'm going to move forward to my next slide. So one of the things that we have been discussing is about how to split our students in groups. One of the techniques that I'm using, and I would like to share it with you, is this one. If you use this URL over there, bit.ly /shape earth, then you will find yourself answering this question, and depending on your answer, the Google form is going to redirect you to a different set of questions. So this is one of the techniques that I'm using in order to split my students in smaller groups. And maybe Yeah. And one other technique is that I'm using Google Docs. For example, I will wait for you to log in to this URL. It's called bit.ly/where-you-are-now. So this is a very friendly URL name, bit.ly/where-you-are-now. If you log to this URL, then you will find yourself facing this table. And this table will be used in order to split into 5 groups. Whenever it is from Europe, it will be redirected by clicking Europe. It will be redirected to a spreadsheet. People from Asia are going to be redirected to a different spreadsheet, and so on. I will try to go online now and see what's happening. Please click on this. When you click on a continent, then there's a URL over there telling you to go to a spreadsheet. I'm going to test it now. Okay. So here are people from Europe. I might also test, for example, people from Middle East. Okay, someone from Israel, and so on. So by this very simple technique, by using Google Docs, you can split your students in various groups. Normally, I would make a spreadsheet like that, and I would call it, for example, Group 1, and everybody will log into this, Group 1 will log to this spreadsheet, and I would have some guidelines in order to move forward, working like a group, working in a small group. Maybe I will give them some URL they will use for their little project. So in order to be more collaborative, and in order to split my students in small groups, I use some very simple techniques like with Google Forms and also with Google Docs. Okay. So the next thing that I would like to show to you is some resources that you can find online in order to create your own lessons. And one of these resources is called TED Ed Lessons. Probably you have heard the TED Talks. I mean, it's very popular to everywhere in the world. But TED, the same association, also has these TED Ed resources where you can create lessons, you can discover lessons, and you can manage lessons. So this is online. I'm logged in with my account. It's free to log in. I can show you some of the possibilities here. You can discover lessons, meaning that you can look for some. These lessons are all evolved around a YouTube video, a video. So the TED is very famous about the videos. So you can have really in every single discipline, you can find something that might be interesting to you and your students. Well, if you find something that is interesting, then you can proceed to create a lesson. And create a lesson means that you can have some questions around the video. And of course, the very interesting thing here is that you can also assign a lesson like that to your students and get the students' responses back. So this is, for me, a very interesting feature that you can also manage your students' responses and see what they are, how they are doing in the assignment. These notifications I get here are all from my students that they have completed the lesson. For example, here in this lesson I have 94 messages from my students. And I can show you what it means to have a lesson. For example, I have this lesson created around a video, and I have assigned this lesson to a group of students so I can review their work here. You see how they are doing with the questions, how many they have completed, how many they are correct, and so on. This is very nice. I think I'm using it very, very much. I like it very much with my students. So another resource I would like to share is, someone said it before, about Golab. Golab is a fantastic project that has collected a lot of online labs, and also if you go to the labs tab, you can see that there are labs for many different disciplines, and of course there are remote labs like the one discussed with the previous speaker. There are also virtual labs, and there are also data sets for you to use with your students. But instead of focusing to the labs, I would like to focus to this authoring platform. You see, Golab lets you create your own lessons, and by creating your own lessons, it's very, very easy for someone to record the students' answers. So this is the authoring tool that you can create your own lessons. And if you click to any of the users that have used it, sorry for the Greek, but I can show you some of the features of this authoring tool. So this is a hypothesis that the specific student, Christina, has created. So I can see what are the responses of the specific student. Also here, I can see what Christina has filled in the specific table after conducting her experiment. So you can follow this way. You can follow the students' responses, and you can see what's happening, how your lesson is doing. You can help your students or provide any other kind of feedback. How do you manage to be an author? It's very simple, because instead of just becoming an author yourself from scratch, you can use all these ready-made scenarios. They are called spaces here in Golab, and you see that they are listed by the discipline, by the age, and also by the language. Okay, so for example, in English, I think you would find 300 scenarios and things like that. Okay, in Greek, there are also a lot of scenarios. So let me forward to the next resource I want to share with you. This is the Concord Consortium. It comes from the Americas, and they have built this fantastic STEM resource finder. You can see the various disciplines, STEM disciplines. You can see that you can filter the resources by the type or by the grade. And they are also browser-based, which means they are based on simulations, and also they are sensor-based, which means that they are activities that you can use using sensors, like probes or something. So the good thing about this repository is that you can build a lesson. You can use the lesson, for example, one of these ready-made lessons that are based around a simulation, and you can assign these lessons to your classes. So if I go here, my classes. Okay. Sorry for this. It seems that they have logged me out because of inactivity. But anyway, if you log in and go to your classes, then you will find a very easy way that you can assign different assignments to your classes. So this is a very good resource in my opinion. Of course, you all know the FET repository. This is a repository also for various disciplines in science and mathematics. This is basically centered around simulations, but there really are very good simulations. I will try to find something that is like you can play directly in your screen. Okay. But simulations like that, practically they are kind of a simulated laboratory. So you can use it with your students and give them some tasks. You see, this is an empty screen. So, for example, someone should build a circuit right from scratch. Okay, something like that. And they can test their hypotheses. They can test. You can do really inquiry lessons with these. You can have various variables here, like the wire resistivity, the battery resistance, and things like that. So you can see the simulation running, hopefully, because I have switched on the switch. And pretty much this is what I was trying to present. Kostas, I don't know about the time, because I'm really very frustrated because of the technical problems I had. So
there's no problem on this. We are very happy that we had with you, and thank you very much. I mean, these things can happen in any live event. So more than us, that we are like teachers, and we are doing this like from hobby, and because we are very much, I mean, we have this kind of questions along our teaching. So thank you very much for your participation, and there is no reason to mention about, technical issues. This has happened. Last week, I followed an MIT webinar. So they had, huge problems regarding internet. So, and this,
Okay.
what is happened to us is nothing. So we have
In fact, it's a good example to what happens to almost any teacher when he's working
yeah, exactly,
on online
exactly.
education.
So
Yes.
we have some questions. I don't know how. I mean, they are running. So do you know any lab for psychology? I don't know, Yanis, if you have anything on your mind.
for psychology,
Yes. Or any tool that probably is useful for them.
I'm sorry, no, but recently I came across this very interesting resource. It was about a game that was that people were playing all together from distance, of course, an online game. That it would be very good for the emotional support, because the aim of the game was to send a letter to someone else during the game. It's something like Ron has mentioned before, but it was very good to show this kind of game online. It's meant to be about social support, so not social, emotional support.
Okay,
But
Yanni.
that's all.
Thank you. And there's another question. How do you combine your interactive tools and other useful websites with your assessment in the courses?
Yes, of course, the assessment cannot always be happen real time. Most of the times I present these assignments to my students, and I give them like a few days or 1 week to complete them, and I log on to the platform and see what has happened. For example, in a TED talk, in a TED lesson like I showed you before, I would give a week for the students to interact with the lesson and answer the questions, and then I would go back and give them feedback.
Thank you, Yanis. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this. And we have a last one. Let's see, from Greece. Anything concerning physical education?
Not my specialty, I'm sorry.
I mean, but we can ask. I mean, probably among us is Nikos Stavropoulos, that he's a professor in the Aristotle University in Thessaloniki. So probably he can provide an answer. But as I told you, whatever question you have placed, we will try to find an answer later on and beyond this webinar. So I think that the floor now, we are ready to start. Thank you, Yanis, again. To start with Professor Elif Benku from Abdullah Gül University in Turkey. I think Ricardo, he will be the mediator for this talk. Elif, let's say,
Elif Bengu is the coordinator of the Center for Enhancement of Learning and Teaching from the Abdullah Gül University from Turkey. And thank you, Elif, for being with us. The floor is yours.
And the talk is very important because it will mention something really important, and a lot of people, they have asked about this, engagement and attendance through the online. So Elif, we are very curious to follow your suggestions.
Okay, so let me share my screen. So I hope, can you see it? Is it on the screen now? Yes, I think so. Oh, I think it takes time for it to come to YouTube. So yeah, my presentation is on thinking engagement versus attendance. And I would like to, let me make this full screen so you can all see it more clearly. Think engagement versus attendance. Through this presentation, my aim is for you to think about the engagement more than the attendance of your students. So my name is Elif Bengü. I am from Turkey, and I am doing many things in my institution. First of all, I'm the coordinator for the enhancement of learning teaching. I'm involved with measurement and evaluation, instructional design, curriculum development, anything that is related to face-to-face learning and also online learning. Before I start, I would like to share with you a note for these challenging times. As you know, we are in the midst of transitioning to teaching online in response to COVID-19 social distancing. This is not the best practice scenario that we are in. And as you know, we are all trying to teach remotely in an emergency. Everyone is balancing a lot and trying hard. So please remember that your health is more important than anything. And I would like to say thank you for all of your efforts for your students. So my agenda is simple. We will talk about building engagement and also Q&A. I think I was, in fact, following the YouTube, I think through YouTube and Facebook. You can also ask your questions while I am presenting. You're welcome to. So in a healthy scenario, yes, this is a perfect picture, right? A happy student in front of his or her computer. So in a healthy scenario, for learning to happen, students should process only a few pieces of information in each channel at one time. And as you know, the channels are seeing, hearing, doing, thinking, and saying. In emergency remote teaching scenario, though, this is what I've been hearing from my students. So they are, and it's really reminding me this, they are receiving too many information and content from various channels at the same time. They may be looking at your screen and listening to you, but at the background, they may be dealing with this. So we have to know that, we have to be aware that they may be dealing with family issues, house chores, little siblings. And sadly, as an instructor, we cannot block everything around our students for the learning to take place. And how about instructors? I know this is the, again, perfect scenario. I don't think that many of you can relate to this. On the other hand, it will be great, right? I have this friend, in fact, who ended up locking herself in a restroom just to go with her daily meeting routine. And then the next day, she got a permission from her office, and now she's working from office, not working from home. So let me remind you before I move on, our students are not like our normal learners. Their environment is different, and they have so much going on in their life right now. Then here's the good news for you, though. In this pandemic, our students do not need professional edited videos and also professionally edited slides. Black text on a white background is perfectly fine. What they need from us is real human engagement. They really want to connect with you. And that takes us to building rapport. They need professors, instructors, checking with them, even administrators, if they're staying in dorms, because we have students who are still staying in dorms, and sometimes our administrative staff also need to check in with them. They need you to check in with them, connect with them, and build rapport. Research showed that engagement in online courses is highest when learners feel a personal connection with their instructor and course content. Because if we show them that we care about their success, they will stay engaged and invest in our classes. They will see a value in that. And I'm aware that building engagement is not an easy task. It doesn't come easy to some of us. And yes, we have to be thoughtful about it. On the other hand, when we invest our time to engage with our students and build rapport with them, our students more likely to stay enrolled, have better grades, and the end result will not only provide better outcomes for your students, but also for your instructors. They will receive better evaluation reports, if that is important, and for your institutions. Then how can we help them? I categorize into two groups, and also probably for engagement in future online teaching, my time limit will not be enough. But when you receive this presentation, you will also get the information. So today I will focus on engagement in emergency remote teaching. And hopefully I will give you key takeaway points that you can use right away in this emergency situation. And then, yes, you will also have some strategies that you can look at when you have more planning time for online teaching. So engagement in remote teaching. These are the topics that I will talk about. So let me move quickly and talk to you about one by one. So the first one is humanizing yourself. Don't be a robot. It is, I know, easier than done. But please, when you are in those synchronized sessions, allow your toddler to scream bomb your class or your cat to jump in front of your screen, because those interruptions will show your students that you are a human being. Yes, most of the time they don't see us as a human being, but we have to remind them. And that also helps your students to connect with you. Create a lovely welcome video. And you may say, oh, I'm already in my sessions. Then you can easily greet students every week. But this is important, not more than a minute-long videos about what they expect from that week. Share a current event or something you read, and maybe a TV show that you are following. Don't afraid or scared to laugh. Don't be too stacked. Talk, don't read, and use silence. I think I read from the comments that says students turn off their microphones and it takes time for them to turn it on. So true. So use that silence, because it takes the response time may take longer in online. So ask your question and, be patient. Wait for them to answer you. Look into the webcam. Seeing the instructor make a huge difference. And I have to say that after dehumanizing yourself, of course, they are really related, but seeing you is also another important step to create connection we want. Audio is more important even than your webcam quality, because the audio quality is not that good, then your students will leave. And yeah, please log in early to test your audio if you are not familiar with it. And also another important one is asking feedback. So you can do this in a SWOT style too. We've been using these, well, in fact, so when did we start? We started our online teaching journey at the beginning of March. And since then, we've been collecting feedbacks from our students. And now we are more doing it like classroom-based. They have much going on. If we show them that we care about their success, as I said, they will stay engaged and invest in our classes. So give them the opportunity to be heard. You can use a poll to collect their suggestions and of course make it anonymous, or you can just give questions like this. And also through these feedbacks, you can set a community agreement together. You can even create the netiquette for chat, for discussion, for when to turn off the microphone, when to turn on the video. So you can even create these rules together with your students. So we have to remember that we teach to students. So then we also need to think, how can learning complement rather than complicate their new reality? To figure out that, we have to ask for feedback. So the other one is create opportunities to connect. There are tons of ways, and as you can see, these are not really super tech tools. Announcements. If you're using LMS, then you can easily put an announcement and it goes as an email through your content, through your discussions, feedbacks. There are various multiple avenues that you can create opportunities to connect. And yes, there is a telephone, which is a really crucial tool gadget to use, because sometimes you have to call that students who's not showing up in your class, which we've been testing this with our instructors, and they are appreciating. The students are appreciating and instructors are appreciating. Students are so happy that their instructors are reaching out to them with the telephone and asking them their well-being. And then as a result, yes, they are somehow kind of like continuing to attending to course, maybe not as a synchronized, but as an asynchronized way. So yeah, make an eye contact. That's a really tricky one, which I have a couple of things about this. So I was just reading about this, in fact, and it says eye contact is key to online education. I'm not sure, because yes, there are many questions on that, like should we keep our should the students keep their videos on or off? I'm sorry, I have to do this because yes, we need to make eye contact, but there are different ways that we can build that eye contact. My suggestion is, yes, please, as an instructor, keep your video on. But my personal suggestion, and with my institution, we come to this decision that we are not making our students to make their videos on, because we've asked our students, and there are many reasons that they don't want to open their videos. For example, we have students who wears, as you know, veil, and there are times that she doesn't want to attend these synchronized sessions with her veil. She's like, I'm at home, I would like to be comfortable about it. Or we don't know the situation that our students in. So maybe they don't want to show their environment to you. For reporting, students' webcams are not that important, but instructors' webcams are important. And as I said, don't force your students unless you have a presentation. Then inform your students beforehand, so then they'll be ready for it. So then how can we make this eye contact? Create one-to-one interactions, send supportive video messages, ask questions by calling their names, which is also show that you know them, so which is really important. And also while speaking, refer to students' comments. Let's say you have a discussion in the previous week, so mention that, oh, I saw Bob with this thread, I really like it, or I found Tom's suggestion a little bit confusing. So, refer to students' comments, send personal emails, we said, and provide personalized feedback. And I can hear you might be saying, Elif, I have more than 10 students, even more than 20 students. How can I send them a personalized feedback? In fact, I was just attending, I think it was last week, a webinar, and they were talking about a great tool that they were using to send these personalized feedback. It is so simple. I'm sure all of you know the Excel, right? The Excel, Office, Word, Excel. So yes, they are using Excel mail merge option. So what they were doing is after an assessment, they are preparing 3 templates. So first template that simply says, keep up the good work, goes to the students about 90 points. Second template that simply says, thank you for the effort, but you have to pay more attention, goes to the students about 60. And the third one, calling for one-on-one online meeting, goes to the ones below 60. And with the mail merge option, then the message is same. All they are doing is from the Excel sheet, adding the names and then sending the email. If you like to more information about that, I can give you more information. But they've been saying, and these are the people that are constantly working on engagement and building rapport, and they said that it has been working for them. So provide timely and useful feedback, which is so crucial. I don't know how can I emphasize this, but it is extremely important in the effort to keep students engaged in the learning journey. You have to give feedback about their performance, and it has to be timely. And if you're so tired to type, which I am sometimes, my fingers are really tiring from typing, just send them audio or video comments or feedbacks. Also, please, this is so crucial, please don't let them start a new assignment before they receive their feedback from the previous assignment. And if you are busy, because as you said, we are in this emergency, and I don't know also your life, if you are busy and if you are having difficulty to provide feedback on those assignments, then maybe you need to cut from those assignments, because for their engagement, it is crucial for them to receive that feedback before moved on. Organize course content. This is also, of course, all of them are important. And in fact, with little things, because I'm sure you have been using LMS, we are using Canvas. I was ready to say COVID. We are using Canvas in my campus. So with little easy, little tricks, you can easily organize your course content. So again, I was attending another webinar. I've been attending a lot of webinars myself too. Even I studied online education for 2010. So I forget, well, even before that. So I forget some of the things. So, and then the world is changing. So I've been attending also webinars on online teaching, on assessment, on various topics to inform myself. So at one of those webinars, Dr. Heidi Sukurat-Harris used this book called E-Learning and the Science of Instruction, which she highly recommended. And then I went to my library and then kind of like start to read it. Thankfully, we have it in my library. So she's just talking about 3 steps: help them to navigate the content, organize the material coherently, and integrate the material with what they have already know. So you may be receiving things like this through your announcement. Of course, you are not receiving these, your students are receiving these. So one day I received this announcement and I was shocked about it. And I was like, okay, there is a problem with this, which I'm talking about A. And then I went ahead and I created as B, like bullet points and headings and things like that. And then I decided to follow Heidi's suggestion. And she's suggesting that, which is an example that I took from one of the instructors. She's suggesting, first of all, chunking. So, and then she says, if we chunk the information, then it is easy for students to reach. Then we are basically giving them week 11, what to read, what to prepare to, and where we will be meeting at. And then she's saying, let's have chunking and highlighting. Then I took her comments and then I started to highlight things that I find it really crucial and important. And then she said chunking, highlighting, and connecting. So basically, you are doing the connecting through your email. Dear class, welcome to the week 5. This week, we will create this by using this that we have done last week. So as you see, it is more clearer for students and to tell them what to expect. So we are helping them to navigate, because it is not as easy as being in the class saying, oh, this part is really important, highlight, or be careful, I may ask it on the exam. On the online environment, we cannot do that. So I'm kind of like coming to an end. So, and also, which they've been also talking about wonderful websites, which I've been following. Thanks a lot to the previous speakers. Engagement in, as I said, in emergency remote teaching is not that easy. And please supplement your content, because there are great websites out there. And then also please engage your content with the crisis. Students are in this crisis. Of course, there may be some like really little things that you need to pay attention or be careful about, but show them that how your field have something to offer a world in crisis, because your students will be the future of those fields. And please show your students how should our fields be responding to solve challenges that the pandemic is causing. Before I finish up, please allow compassion, gentleness, and flexibility where possible. And humanizing your teaching will create the engagement that you are aiming for. When it comes to using the tools, as you can see, I've used simple tools to connect with my students. Use what you know, what works for you, and what you find comfortable to work with. And I would like to finish my presentation, and I would like to say thank you to the coordinators, to Costas and others for organizing this webinar. I had a chance to meet with Maya Angelou in 2006 in the United States. So as she said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So your students will always remember how you made them feel, and they will always come back to your courses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Elif, for this very interesting presentation. We are receiving a lot of congratulations for your presentation. And so now we can start the questions section. For example, let's see. Okay, there are also people asking for the yes. Reminders of the presentations, and for the all the presentations will be available about the
yes.
the website.
And I will be also sharing the all the references that I use, the books, and all the webinars even that I would like to share them, because they may want to go and listen from those people too.
All the material will be uploaded into the Moodle, in a specific site in the Moodle that we are going to create, and we will provide, me and Ricardo, all the credentials in order to access this material at the end of the webinar. So this means after we finish on the 7th of May, everything will be available to any interesting stakeholder. And just to mention something, yes, okay, yes.
Yes.
Okay, there are several questions about also.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, I did I interrupt you?
Oh, I'm ready to answer the questions when you're ready.
Okay, there are several questions about the Excel feedback mechanism.
Oh yeah, let me quickly. So it is when you have time, by the way, in my presentation, you will also see like the things that you can do when you have more time. But Excel, that mail merge is a really easy thing to kind of like apply. First of all, I'm sure most of you have this maybe a document that you're keeping your students' note. So basically, in an Excel sheet, just write their names. And I'm sure on YouTube, you can also find, like, if you say how to do email merge, mail merge, and then I'm sure on YouTube, you can find those videos. I used it myself for something else, because at one point I supposed to send those 1,000 letters. I use it for that. So it's the same thing, please, on YouTube. And what she was doing is, depends on her note. I think hers was 100 to 90, a specific message, 90 to 60, and some specific message, and 60 to 0 specific message. So it's really up to you how to change it. But I can also put my email address on my presentation, and you're also welcome to ask me more personally.
Okay. Thank you. There's another nice question here. How do you make a call to students who are less active in your session while presenting your session?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm using, in my institution, we are using Zoom synchronized sessions for synchronized sessions. So in the Zoom, as you know, in fact, there are also names that are written. And also we ask our students to upload a photo. We said, okay, you will not be turning on your camera, but you have to upload your photo. And I also tell them, I said from the beginning, this is how I will be conducting my synchronized session. So I'll be calling your names. So it's not like I am not informing them. I'm telling them that throughout the sessions, I'll be calling your name, so be aware. And also when I put them in the breakout sessions, in those small study groups, they have to be active because they are with 4 or 5 people and they cannot be deactive. But in big groups, yeah, I basically just call their names, but with their information, because otherwise, I don't also want to put them in a really uncomfortable position, like, oh, tell me what is this? It's not like that. It's more like, oh, okay, let's hear about this from Ahmed. Ahmed, what is your idea on this? Kind of.
Okay, another interesting question is about if people think that it's important to make students aware that also teachers are learning along this process.
Definitely. That is also what I always tell my students. I said, please also let me learn from you. And that is also creating really another kind of connection. It's just giving them that authority, I think, is also priceless.
Yeah, it's part of the transfer of the process, yes. No? How do we learn from each other? No?
Definitely, definitely.
Okay, so I think we can go for the next presentation.
Yes.
Dr. Elif, thank you very much for everything.
Welcome. Welcome.
If we receive more questions regarding your topic, we'll follow to you. And yes. Just remind to all our attendees that we'll place all the question and answers together once the webinar is finished, right, Costas?
Yes, this is correct. We're going to do it as soon as possible. And also we are going to share everything with everyone, because this is the purpose of the webinar, to share knowledge and tips among us. Also, don't forget, at the end of this webinar, I will send you a link to evaluate us, because this is so important in order to make even better, if we can. I mean, we will try the best. The next 2 sessions of this webinar on the 4th and on the 7th of May. So it's very important to receive your critical feedback. Okay, so Ricardo, please introduce the rest of the people.
Okay. Just one last thing regarding.
Thank you, Elif.
Thank you, Elif. Just one last thing regarding this evaluation. The evaluation form is also accessible from the website of the project.
Exactly.
So you can go to the website, and but we will place it here as well.
I will place the link also on this public chat. But as Ricardo has mentioned, it's directly accessible from the website. And it's also a lot of people we are asking what are going to be the lectures for the next webinars. Also, the program and the agenda is available through the website. So if you go to the website, there's a big tab over there that you can download. All right. So Ricardo, please give the floor to the rest of the people. Okay.
Yes. Our last session will be with Mr. Tim Adams, Mr. Grieken, and Mr. Merode. They are from the Department of Electronics from the University of Applied Science and Arts from Belgium. They are going to talk about distance education for practice-oriented technology, education, how to organize theory labs and project works. Let me introduce Tim.
Hello.
Dirk and
Hello.
Dirk.
Hello. Here I am.
So
maybe you can start our presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for our presentation and for waiting for our presentation. I think the things that we will be talking about are obviously quite relevant for a lot of you, because of the fact that organizing distance education for practice-oriented technology lessons is difficult. We are with 3 presenters. We are from the App University of Applied Science. And an important word in our university is obviously applied science, which means that we will be needing our lab and our lab lab exercises, so to do some actual work with our students. Now this is challenging, but we will present 3 workable solutions to this goal. Now, some general numbers about the transition from going online with the Upper University. So our communication department put some things together in an infographic about the digital teaching. Also about the digital cooperation. You see that the usage of the tools has increased massively. And also some other trivia on what happened the first 3 weeks when we went online with all of our students, which is about 70,000 students. So, okay. If we go more into detail of our department, we are from the Department of Science and Technology. So we teach, obviously, science and technology. So we need these labs. These are some of the pictures of our lab infrastructure. So you can see the challenge there. I have to say that we were quite fast to take some measures toward our students and toward our way of working. One of them was a dynamic adaptation of the schedules for students. So we had every week we had another schedule for our students for the lessons they needed to attend and the way how to attend them. I think also a very good choice was the uniformity in tools, that we don't have to have a number of a very wide collection of tools, but that we focus on Moodle for the learning management system. For the communication, we focus on Microsoft Teams. And for our audio-visual content, we use Panopto. And I think a strong point was also to the decision to do immediate surveys for students and staff, because then we got a lot of feedback on how the students coped with the situation, but also how staff coped with the situation. And one of the questions obviously was if they like this kind of surveys, and the feedback was that they really enjoyed it. So, okay, so now let me go a little bit more into detail in the things that we do in our electronics and ICT department. So how we cope or how we deliver our theory. So what we do, we make these kind of movie clips. We don't make them too long, but we make movie clips with which the students should follow. And also we schedule in some time for the students. So they get 1 hour, for instance, to look at the movie clips. And then after this hour, we go over to half an hour of Q&A. So the students can ask questions. But we do this also in a guided manner. We use Mentimeter for that, so that, in fact, you can ask a question to all of your students. They are not very shy. They all answer your question. And this gives you valuable feedback if the students, they actually understand what the topic of your theory session was about. And when asking the students if they like this way of working with a movie clip and then the guided feedback with the Mentimeter, then you see on the right-hand side of this slide that with the thumbs up that they really like it. They like the way of this online working. Now, this is good for theory. For the lab exercises, luckily we are in electronics ICT, so we work with small components. So we have this microcontroller system. And all the students, they have this kit, microcontroller kit at home. So they can actually make their microcontroller systems just at their home desk. And also for the students, I provided that I had some stock available at my home. So sometimes some students visit my home because I'm not living that far away from the campus. So they can get a malfunctioned component and they can get a spare one. So this is how we can do the electronics lab. And then obviously it's important that after a lab exercise, the students that they should get feedback. They should get the interesting or the most important topics things that they needed to learn. They need to get this back from our side. So we want to emphasize certain things. And so this is also why we made a feedback movie, so people can get feedback on their lab exercise. I also, to enjoy the students a little bit, or to amuse the students a little bit, I grew a Corona mustache, and so that humor seems to be also important for the students. So now the next question obviously is, how do you assess these kind of things? For the theoretical exams, we use a certain browser, a limited browser, where there is no communication possible with other students. They can only open up one window. And also the students, their room where they're doing their online assessment, and their screens, they are recorded during their exam. So, and then for the practical part, we do a practical test. So it's actually what they need to do is to build a circuit and to program it. And so they need to upload their code to the learning management system. And afterwards, when they did their actual system, they have to make a movie and they explain what the system does. So they prove, or they show that the hardware works, and then also they show that there is communication with the system, or through the system to their own laptop. Now you might say, and this is also possible to do this in simulation, obviously, but it's nice to have this with the actual hardware, and it's easy to do with this kind of microcontroller systems. But my colleague of the electromechanical department, they work with big machines, they work with factories and so on. They too have their solutions to do this online. So I would like to give the floor to my colleague Geert van Grieken from the electromechanical and automation department.
Hi, I'm Geert van Grieken, and I'm going to tell how we handle project work at App University College. Before the Corona lockdown, students work in a lab on technical installations as shown on this slide and the next slide. So students were working on project A, where they automate the RMS 200 installation, which is physical in our lab. And they work on project B, where they do some research about the soft PLC. Students work in a team of 4 to 5 students, and they have one contact day each week. With the lockdown, we changed to a virtual project organization, as showed in the next slide. So we went 100% digital, and the technical installation is changed into a 3D virtual warehouse installation. Teams are now virtual with Microsoft Teams, and teachers have to reorganize themselves, as showed in the next slide. So teachers become lab teachers as before the lockdown, and they also become coaches to guide student teams. And they also become technicians to support students with technical problems. In the next slide, we can see the technical details. The project is divided into parts, so-called dots. Students had to combine different kinds of dots to create a task for themselves. So student A combines E-plan electrical drawing with Siemens TIA selection tool with Siemens TIA portal to create an electrical engineering task. Within the scope of the project, student B combines Siemens TIA portal, Siemens PLC Sim Advanced, and also Real Games Factory IO, which is the virtual factory, to create an automation engineering task. Student C combines Schneider HMI, which is human-machine interface displays, and combine this with the Siemens PLC Sim Advanced to the Factory IO to create an HMI engineering task, and so on. So the next slide gives an overview of the used software. It's very technical, but let me focus on 2 items. We use the Moodle platform, which is the central information point, and we use Microsoft Teams, which is the central meeting point. So let's go over to the next slide. And we gave a little demonstration about that virtual warehouse or an equivalent, and this is a sorter installation. So we use there the Siemens TIA portal, the engineering environment, and the simulation environment. So I suggest that we start the demonstration movie. So this demonstration movie, it's a system that we're going to implement in East Africa with our partners over there. And the demonstration will show a factory I/O sorting installation. At the moment, Siemens TIA portal is starting up. It's the engineering environment of Siemens. We go to the project details over here. Project details are loaded. Then we open up the machine controller. The machine controller contains the machine software. So the machine software will pop up. There it is. And then we will start the simulator of the machine controller. So we're starting on the machine simulator. There it is. Now we have to download the software into the controller. So the software is loaded, the simulator is online. Let's activate the debug mode of the software. Debug mode is activated. Next step to do is to start our virtual web machine. So we start up Factorio, select the right scene, which is factory for I/O sorting on height. Then we select the simulator of Siemens. We see the interface between the virtual world and within the simulator. We connect them. And we can start our automation by clicking the Run button. You will see that pallets with high boxes will sort to the right, as we see at the transfer now. Some other pallets will be also sorted to the right. Lots of pallets will be sorted to the right, and now we see a pallet with a low item. And this low item will be sorted to the left. This was a little demonstration, and now I will give the word to my colleague, Tim.
Okay, thank you, Geert. So let's have a look if people can put me full screen. So let's wait a second for the producer. So by the way, my name is Tim, and yeah, I am a teacher also at Electronics ICT department, but I teach programming courses, so which means like 89% of the things I do are code being shown. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. So sometimes, yeah, it tends to get quite boring, especially if it's like 1.5 hours of programming. So I was looking to another solution, and I think I found one, because the problem with the current software we use, like Skype, Teams, Zoom, Jitsi, etc., it only has two possible screens that it can show. It can show your face like this, and students after a while get quite bored of that, or it can show your presentation, which again isn't that very interesting. Or you could try to switch to another screen and have a little panic because not everything on that screen is what you want the student to see. So what we really need is like a producer, a director, someone who can control the screens that we're seeing. And for this webinar, we have that, which is quite nice. But of course, when you're at home, you have to do that yourself. So what I wanted was to have my own little studio, but purely on my laptop. So I have no expensive equipment. Everything is being done on my laptop and my computer. And the software I found is a very nice one. It's called Open Broadcaster software, which is software that's used by many online stream people like PewDiePie and whatever. And there's a new thing in town called NDI tools, which is also a free tool. And this enables us to create, let's show it here, which enables us to create a fake virtual webcam, which can then be fed with any information that we have, which can then be broadcasted to Skype, Teams, Zoom, or whatever. So suddenly I'm in control of what is being shown on the screen. So hello, everyone. So now I can very simply, by just preparing some scenes, create any content that I like. And so suddenly I can start coding and do cool stuff like this. And no awkward pop-ups come here. I don't have to alt-tab and search for the correct screen. Everything is being done by me, by just pushing a button in the scene selector of Ops. And I can feed this through to any tool that is using a webcam. So that's very interesting. For example, I have here on my desk a nice tablet on which I can start drawing schematics. I'm a very bad drawer, but it is fed through the network to my director software, to the Ops project, because basically anything can be a source. I can make very interesting presentations where I can put the YouTube movie extra. Dirk could call me in through Skype. I could view Dirk's presentation here. We can do anything with it. And the nice thing is, even my dad is using this software, and it took about 1 hour or 2 to get used to it. So it's free, it's nice, and I think it helps to make your presentations a little bit less boring than what we're used to, because let's be honest, students have been watching all these presentations now for over 5 weeks. So we need to put some dynamics in what they are being shown. So that's just a small presentation. If you're interested in this type of content, I made a little guide here. Just, you can see the guide here. So then you can watch more about how to do it yourself. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So thank you very much. So let's give the screen back to Geert, Dirk, and me. We want to thank you very much for this presentation. We are the last ones. So let's see if there are any more questions from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim, Gert, and Dirk, for your presentations. And now we're going to start the question session. So first one is, how do you record the student screen and room during the assessment?
Yeah, we use, we recently acquired a new license to the lockdown browser software, which the University College just bought like 2 weeks ago, which allows us to lock down everything on the computer except the browser in which they can do the exams. And we also have another tool which was built in-house, which captures the screens, so we can see what they are actually doing outside the screens, and also their webcam if they have one.
It's also, it has an artificial intelligence engine, so specific eye movement, or the student always looking away, or the student looking at his phone is recorded, and then you get some highlights which suspicious movements from the students.
Okay, another question. How do you assess a programming exercise online? Is there any tool for that, giving a program in C++ and automatically accessed and evaluated, giving students a grade?
Yeah, so go ahead, Dirk.
Yeah, what we do, the students, they get a certain assignment, but an important thing, I think, especially for programming, is that we do this an open book exam, because they are allowed to use all their resources, but they need to be able, because that's also what we would do as a programmer. We would look if we have some solutions that are already more or less what we want to achieve, and then we have to adapt this to the given exercise, obviously. So they get a certain amount of time, but they can use their own resources inside their computer, and they cannot communicate. That's actually what is an important topic. Maybe Tim, you want to add something?
Yeah, there's also this tool, which we don't have, unfortunately, CodeGrade, which does automatic assessment of C and C++ and other languages online. But it has a Git, a free open source version as well, but there's also a paid version, which also has hosting. So that's CodeGrade.
Okay. Okay, another question. Is it good to activate student preview function while teaching online, as material can be sometimes quite complicated?
Yeah, so like Dirk already said, we create small knowledge clips that students watch beforehand. And then after the knowledge clips have been shown, they do it on their own time, we have live sessions where they can ask more in-depth questions about the things they've seen offline. And so then we can elaborate on those things. So we believe that's a good way to do.
Yeah. And at the same time, the students, they get some feedback from the questions that we ask. What are our highlights? So you teach something, and afterwards you ask them some questions through Mentimeter. So the students, they also have a heads up what we think is important from our talk.
Okay. Well, I think that will be all. You're receiving a lot of congratulations for your presentation. So
thank you.
Thanks for that.
As all of the speakers today, they have received very good comments, and this is something that we really appreciate. Included, the last three Caballeros from Belgium. It was really nice. I think that we are on time regarding the extra presentation that we had and the discussion and the very nice questions that they have been made by the audience. Are the last one. So I think that we should place it to the speakers. I don't know. Are those movies clips are also similar, created through a software? Can you reply to this?
Yeah, sure. If you can put me on full screen, you can actually see what I'm doing. So perhaps,
yes,
I don't know if that's possible.
Let me place you full screen now. You should place full screen, or Javier, you should share your screen.
No. Just put my face.
Yes, I'm back.
It's Teams, no?
Yeah, it's Tim. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So what you see here on the right side, let's do this one away. So like this. So this screen is basically where I prepare all my scenes. On the left side, I can manage anything I want to see, and then I can transition and send it to the, this is a very bad example, and then send it to you guys. So this allows me to rapidly switch from scene to scene and see beforehand what's actually in there. So it happens that there's something like a private email or something, then I can prevent that from being shown.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much for this. So okay, at this point, I think that we should thank all the speakers. No, Ricardo.
Yes.
We are very proud. Very proud. We are very happy for their contribution, because this happens because of their interest and love of teaching. We are going to renew our meeting on the 4th of May. We will start on the 4th of May. You can find the presentations and on the website. We will start with Elif Benkou again from Abdullah Gül University. He's going to speak about assessment in remote and online teaching. Then we will continue with another lady from Spain, from EVM education sector. She's going to speak about something that a lot of people you have asked about, soft skills for teachers for online education. She's going to be delivered by Miss Van der Meer. Then we will move with a professor from the biggest online university in Italy, Professor Alessandro Caforio, and he's going to speak how to design your online didactic. Then we will move to another another online Italian university, the University of Cusano. So Professor Daniel Baretin is going to speak about the learning online models. And finally, we have two excellent colleagues from Spain, from Canary Islands, from the University of La Laguna, Professor Israel Garcia Alonso and Professor Ricardo Gonzalez. They are going to Rodrigo, they are going to speak about continuous assessment in online teaching and particular exams in mathematics, because there are a lot of questions regarding mathematics and online teaching. But before we move, a lot of reminders they will send to all the people that they have registered. New links they will be established. They are not going to be the same link in order to log in to the webinar. The webinar will start again at 17:00 CET, Central European Time, until, let's hope, until 1930s hours CET. I repeat this. Before you move, I just sent you a link with evaluation. As I told you, critical feedback for us is the most useful thing, a part of your participation, a part of your questions, to make us better, because we have more plans. We are a group of people. I think that we like education and we would like to invest on this. So please support us. And if you would like to speak in one of the future seminars, probably you can send us an email. So with this, I would like to thank all the people. I would like to thank also the people, and Ricardo will agree with us, not only me and Ricardo, that we are on the front of the screen. Other people, they have supported us. I mean, from the Greek, from Hellenic Mediterranean University, I would like to thank all the staff of the international relations, Nikos Bolanakis, that he helped me a lot in order to design together. Everything has been done in collaboration with EVM, but now I'm talking about the Greek staff. Nicolas Bolanakis for the website, George Triandafilou for the administration and the certificates that we are preparing. People like, okay, I should mention my wife that helped me with the data analysis and your question categorization, yourself for your participation, because without you, nothing will happen. And of course, the speakers, that all of us, we are friends more than colleagues. Okay, so
yes. Finally, I would just only like to thank the people from EVN in Spain, like Loren Bordermir, or my partner Pablo Diaz, or our colleagues from the technical side, from the communication side from Argentina, Ezequiel and Mesa and Fran. So we are really glad to have this webinar with all of you. And considering that this was the first time, I think everything is been more or less fluid. So next day will be more professional.
Okay, we will do our best. The limit is the sky, Ricardo. So thank you. Don't forget the evaluation, and let's meet again, all of us, on the 4th of May. Thank you, guys. Kalinikta from Greece. I don't know, buenas noches from Spain, and I don't know the rest of the language.
Just one last reminder about the evaluation form. We have placed it in both in YouTube and in Facebook, but you already have it in the website.
Exactly. Okay. So
thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.